So we have a special edition of Ink and Paint today, and we're going to go over something big. Jay, what is happening in the world of Ink and Paint today?
So we're going to go over the latest series on Disney Plus, Boba Fett.
The Book of Boba Fett, which just ended yesterday. It was a 7-episode series on Disney Plus, a spinoff of the Mandalorian series. And we're doing a special edition of Ink and Paint where we're not going to talk about anything in the world of Disney. We're just going to go over our thoughts and opinions, and we're going to keep it real simple. The first portion is going to be spoiler-free, and then we'll give you a very clear warning when we start going into spoiler territory, because we do want to go into that. Here's a big spoiler, Jay. We like surprise episodes, right? We love
surprises.
Yeah, and we like surprise cameos.
Yes.
And
do we have a cameo?
We do have a cameo. Today, we're bringing in really close friend of mine, host of the incredibly popular and famous podcast, Appraisal Between the Lines, Mr. Brian Lee. Brian, what's up, buddy?
Woo-hoo! Hey, guys, what's going on? Thanks for having me on.
All right, so we have Brian, Jay, and Steve. We're all considered Star Wars aficionados. Brian and Jay are absolutely level 10, and I can't wait to get into it. So without any further ado, here's a special edition of Ink and Paint. All right, so here we go. Special edition of Ink and Paint. Brian, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining.
Dude, it is so good to be here. It's actually interesting you had mentioned that I have a podcast that you've been on several times, and usually when you jump on, my ratings drop significantly. So I'm hoping that because my joining with you here will actually increase your numbers. So I'm looking for that carryover a little bit, but the opposite effect when you join my show. But other than that, I'm so excited to be here. I love talking about Star Wars. I'm just shot out of a cannon about Book of Boba Fett. Just love how it went through with that, and excited to talk about it with you guys today.
So, Jay, we've all caught up. We've watched it all. The series just ended its 7th episode on February 9th. Today is the 10th, so it is all wrapped up. And, Jay, I think you had some preliminary questions for Brian. Since he started immediately with talking crap about me, let's make sure that he absolutely can hold his own. Do you have something predetermined to go out to Brian?
You know what? I do, because I want to kind of see where you're at here, Brian, as far as your Star Wars expertise.
Oh, geez. Is this? Let me get out my canon book, my encyclopedia. Yes, go ahead, please.
All right. So first off, let's start off. What's your favorite Star Wars movie?
It's hilarious that you say this. It's hilarious that you ask this. I teach a pre-licensing class for real estate, and last night in class we had, I swear to you, a 5-minute discussion. And again, this is a real estate class that I'm talking to. We had a 5-minute discussion over the best Star Wars movie that's out there. And because I'm the instructor, I made it clear to everybody that was wrong. It is Episode 4, A New Hope. That is the absolute best Star Wars movie out there. Now, I know a lot of people say Empire Strikes Back. I'm not mad. I love it. Close second, but without question, Episode 4, New Hope, is the best bomb diggity episode that exists.
All right. And what's your least favorite?
Oh gosh, I get really torn on this because after the first 2 or 3, they're all blended to me. So I know some people have like a ranking of all 1 to 9, and then certainly you could throw in Solo and Rogue One as well. So maybe you could go through 11 or whatever, and even add on the other ones. I don't know that I have a worst, because I got to be honest, I love all the movies. I mean, I like some of them better. Some people got all upset about the prequels because of it was too kiddie and all that. I love the prequels. Again, they're not my top, but I love them. The most recent 3, the sequel movies, I'd say just jointly were my least favorite, just collectively. It felt like a rehash of what episodes 4, 5, and 6 were. But again, it's Star Wars, so I don't care. I mean, you could put Star Wars on a pile of crap and you're going to get me to watch it. I mean, I just love Star Wars. So I don't have a worst of all of them. I don't. I know it's maybe a cop-out answer, but I can't say that I hated any of them. I love Solo. I love Rogue One. And I know a lot of people did not like Solo at all. Solo,
I did not.
Not for me.
Yeah,
I like Solo. I didn't have an issue with Solo.
Yeah, I was sad that it got such a poor reception, and I love Ron Howard. I mean, everything that he does, my gosh, and his daughter. I mean, we can probably get into that too.
Yeah, we're going to get into that.
Rockstar family. You're not going to go wrong with them.
Oh yeah. And then one last question: what's the name of Anakin's first dog?
Wasn't it just like sand person? I mean, he was like, I think that's why he was so upset about the sand people killing his mom, because like his first dog was one of those sand people dogs, and so he just had that name. I have no idea.
Is there an actual answer, Jay?
No, there's no answer. I was just kind of curious.
Oh my god!
Yeah. I'm sorry. I remember now. It's Fido.
It's Fido.
It's either Fifi. That's right. Sorry, it was Fifi.
My first reaction was it was Spot, but that's there's no way that they went to that direction. So you know what? We could get into our thoughts and opinions on Star Wars. We'll save this for another episode because we're here today to literally break down the Book of Boba Fett, the new series on Disney Plus that just wrapped up. So we'll go through this sort of opinions first with no spoilers. And Jay, since we have a guest, I just want to get his vibe first. What did you think of the whole series, Brian?
Great question. I mean, again, like I said earlier, if it has Star Wars on it, I'm in. I mean, it could be crap and I'm going to love it. So I loved it. Again, the show, again, trying to avoid spoilers here. I don't want to get too far into it, but Book of Boba Fett, I'm thinking it's a show about Boba Fett. And as you know, and some of you that have watched the series already know that they took a little bit of a turn. I think it was in episode 5.
It was
that kind of avoided some of that. So I liked what they did with it, but again, it was a Book of Boba Fett, and it just felt like they kind of went off the topic of there because I'm a huge. I mean, I saw the original movies when they came out. I am that old. Shut up, Steve. So I saw the movies when they came out. I love Boba Fett. I wanted to hear more about Boba Fett. And so, I mean, overall, I love the series, but a little, I shouldn't say shocked. I know where Disney's going with it and why they did what they did, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more about a Boba Fett centric movie as opposed to some of the tangents that they took. But again, not mad, I don't have a negative opinion about it in any way.
Jay, what about you?
You know what? I love, basically where they went as far as connecting the dots on a lot of questions. However, again, I know we're going to be giving spoilers here a little bit later, but overall, I would say I was a little bit let down on this. Again, I love the back history on some of the things, but as we're going to talk about later, a lot of the stuff could have been put kind of combined and put somewhere else. And I'll kind of leave it like that at that right now. But I don't know. It was just okay. Just okay for me.
So I thought it was really, really good. And I think that it was Brian's point is obviously very, very valid. And I think it's the universal opinion is it's called the Book of Boba Fett. And now there are memes about there how it's more of the Book of Mandalorian. And that's not a spoiler. It's literally been out there for 3 weeks. It's very famously known that the Mandalorian shows up and in episode 5. And as a matter of fact, there's 2 episodes where you don't even see Boba Fett. So, well, you do, but it's very minimalistic. So I thought that, Brian, we'll bring it into a housing market thing. I thought that the show had its major ups and downs. There were recessions, and then they were just accelerated moments of the top of the market kind of stuff. And I thought that there were some episodes that were my favorite thing of Star Wars, maybe yet. And then there were some that I was just like, this made no sense. Why did they do this? Yes. And I actually kind of have put together a correlation. The ones that I think are the low or the recession, if you call it, of these episodes are the ones that are directed by Robert Rodriguez. And that would be episode 1, episode 3, and the finale, episode 7. So the other episodes I thought had some major high points, and including episode 5 and episode 6, which I think might be my favorite hours of Star Wars that I can really, really think of. And I loved it. Here's the actual IMDb rating. Tell me if you guys agree with this. The total IMDb rating after 63,000 views and ratings is a 7.7 out of 10. What do you guys think about that as far as what your grade? Because if you bring it up to that, that's like a solid C+.
Yeah, for me, I think as an overall series, I would agree, but kind of exactly what you said, I wouldn't rate them. I mean, that's the average because
that is exactly.
Like some of the episodes 2 and 3 might have been a 3, but 5, 6, and 7 were absolutely close to 9s and 10s. So the average, I think that's probably fair when you're looking at the entire series. So I don't disagree with it, but I would give the caveat to say that it's not 7 all across the board.
So I like that you said that, because it does take you rank the entire series, and then you can go in and rank each episode. And so the entire series has a 7.7. I'm going to read you the ratings for each episode to show that I think that this is one of the most uneven series I've seen because of the highs and lows. The pilot, or chapter 1, is a 7.4. Chapter 2 is an 8.3. That's a huge jump, and 8.3 is very high. And 8.3 is the one where he's learning to live with the Sand People, and I thought that was an amazing episode. Chapter 3 goes down to a 6.4, which is one of the lowest rated things on Star Wars IMDb history. It's very low. Episode 4 goes up to a 7.6, and then this is where the real roller coasters start. Episode 5 has a 9.4, and episode 6 has a 9.5. 9.4 and 9.5 on TV, that challenges things like Breaking Bad, The Wire, and Seinfeld as far as high ratings, putting it at the very top of episode sort of rankings. And then the finale goes back down to a 7.8. So when you put it all together, I think a 7.7 is a very fair rating, and I could not agree more on each of these rankings as far as their scores.
Agreed.
So I think that our total opinion on this thing, without any spoilers, is that it is a good watch. It's definitely a worthy viewing, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. You're going to get cameos. You're going to get surprise cameos. If you've seen The Mandalorian, you know that that's what they kind of thrive on, is Easter eggs and cameos that come in out of nowhere. And being that Filoni and Jon Favreau were so heavily involved in this, you can sense their presence in some of these episodes. And when we get down to the spoiler part, we'll go through which directors did what, because as Brian said earlier, Bryce Dallas Howard, once again, I think solidified herself as one of the future helms of Star Wars. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think she's going to be the future of where things go, and I couldn't be more excited about that. So I think we're all on the same page. That is an average viewing as altogether, not upset by it. And there were moments where I was holding my face, gasping for breath. Let's just say the finale of episodes or chapter 6. And again, this is no spoiler. You do see Cad Bane, and that is a first time we've seen him in real life. I was absolutely floored because that episode was filled with cameos, but seeing him was like, this is such a huge moment in Star Wars world. Did you guys have the same reaction?
100% agree. I mean, I just, again, that's what I loved about this series is that, and what's really interesting, because I think the three of us are probably on the same page from this standpoint, is that we've seen Rebels, we've seen, the Clone Wars, we've seen all the movies. So all those cameos, all those things just makes my skin just it's like, I'm just crazy. Like, this is just awesome. And I'm really curious to see people that aren't familiar with some of the back stuff, that they didn't understand all the cameos. They didn't know necessarily who Ahsoka was and Cad Bane. But man, when he came on the screen, when he had his brimmed hat and he looks up, and the whole time I knew it was him. But as soon as you see his eyes, like, oh my gosh, that's Cad Bane.
Yeah.
Freaked out, and it's like, okay, I don't care. That went from a 10 to a 1,000 for me because of his presence.
Yeah, and that episode was filled with other cameos as well. But you know what? I'm not going to go into this any further without giving a spoiler alert warning. Yes. And so far, we haven't done any, because Disney, literally after every episode, they post a new character poster. So 6 hours after episode 6 aired, their character poster was of Cad Bane. So there's no spoiler that he's there. He's on their marketing now. And hell, I use him as a Yaki Way post, so people know that. But just in case people don't know what else is going on, we're going to drop it right now. If you don't want to be spoiled on the show and you have not finished it yet, this is where you want to pause it and come back when you're done, and then yell at us for disagreeing with us. But as of right now, I do not want to screw up your day by spoiling this show. So here you go. Spoiler alert. Starting in 3 seconds, we're going to go right into it. If you're leaving now, thanks for listening. And everyone else, stick around, because here we go. We're going right into spoiler territory. 3, 2, 1. Ba-da-da-da! Spoilers. Here we go. So, Jay.
Yes.
What let's just continue on with this and go through episodes by who they are and what is important about them. And we can kind of go through and just sort of point out facts that we like, but we don't have to dwell on each one. The pilot episode is called Stranger in a Strange Land, and that was written by Jon Favreau and the rest of the group, Dave Filoni, George Lucas, blah, blah, blah. But he was the key writer, and it was directed by Robert Rodriguez. Everyone knows Robert Rodriguez from things like El Mariachi, Planet Terror, Grindhouse, Spy Kids. He's really close friends with, what's his name? Quentin Tarantino. He loves spaghetti westerns. He made, what's the black and white with Sin City? So I think that putting him in made sense until later on, because he loves Western gritty style. But he's also a weird dude, and his taste in what he does works in sort of what he does. And here I thought it threw me for a loop. I like the pilot episode personally because I love that it shows how Boba Fett actually survived Return of the Jedi. And I thought that them showing how he got out of the Sarlacc pit was absolutely brilliant. Jay, we talked about that on our pilot episode of Ink and Paint here on the new network of Nightcap Chat. But Brian, did you have the same sort of thoughts that we did?
Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed the episode one. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more backstory on that. I mean, again, just he's in the Sarlacc pit. He goes over and gets the stormtrooper's air tube, and then he's out. Like, okay, I mean, explained it, but I mean, I would have liked to have seen something more. I did like that, and again, I want to jump ahead, but in another episode, I don't remember. I think it was maybe 3 or 4 that the Slave One, which we can't call that now. I know. That's a whole other tangent we could go on. But regardless, I liked how they brought that back into it.
Agreed.
Yes.
So that one was, like I said, directed by Robert Rodriguez, and we thought that he was going to be great and a good part of this. And I think it went downhill because episode 2 was directed by Steph Green. Steph Green is she directed some episodes of The L Word, The Watchmen, and The Americans. So I like that they give new people new chances. And I want to touch on this again at the end. My biggest problem with Star Wars is their inability to let organic storytellers tell their story in their way. And Jay and I have talked about how it works in Marvel, but doesn't work in Star Wars. And I think that this is a good example. So episode 2, or chapter 2, The Tribes of Tatooine, directed by Steph Green, focuses on Boba Fett living with the Sand People, the Tusken Raiders. And I thought that this is maybe one of the most original and clever storytelling tropes because we've said this before. They even said it in The Mandalorian. The Tusken Raiders have always been seen as dumb, idiot villains in the desert that you just snipe while driving by, right? I mean, how even in Phantom Menace, they're just standing there making that sound, shooting at the pod racers, right? That's their whole gimmick. This humanized them, if you want to use that term, even though they're not humans, and it made them very watchable, and you felt for them. What did you guys think?
I agree. The only issue that I really and I don't really have an issue with that per se, but my issue with that is with the Tusken Raiders. I was a little bit let down because I know they're trying to kind of break away from the traditional look of the Tusken Raiders, but if you've watched any of the other movies or know anything about the Tusken Raiders, you could tell the difference between the sexes. This one, they made it across the board, the male mask, even though you could tell that there was a female that was underneath that character. So it was kind of hard for me. Not a huge deal, not a deal breaker at all, but I couldn't stop noticing that kind of stuff. So it's just little things like that were kind of bothering me about it.
And just so the listeners know, Brian and Jay are very versed on this world, just like most of you are, like Lance and Blade and Ken. So you guys picked up on that immediately. Jay, you literally sent me a screen print of the difference between a female and a male, and I had never really noticed that, but the OG fans out there like you two and the rest of you listening may notice that. It's the little tiny things like that that I think separate, are you just a good director or are you a detail-oriented director? And I do think that in Star Wars, you have to have some details that you get right. But again, I thought this was a great episode, and its rating is an 8.3 with 14,000 ratings. So it puts it as one of the higher rated episodes on this series, nice. which does lead into my, I straight up, I disliked this episode. And that would be chapter 3, The Streets of Mos Espa. Yes. And this one was, again, written by Jon Favreau, but directed again by Robert Rodriguez, which I play a game because I'm a big film fanatic, right? I love Star Wars, but I love filmmakers and their story tropes and how they do it. So I usually have a policy when I watch these episodes is to not look up who the director was until the episode ends and it says directed by whatever. Because sometimes I'm like, yes! And then sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. So I waited for this one, and I'm sitting here, and I was so bummed out by a couple of scenes that we'll break down here in a second. But this one, when it said directed by Robert Rodriguez, I was like, yep, that seems about right. What did you guys take away from this episode? The Streets of Mos Espa.
I don't remember specifically anything from that episode particularly, but just kind of, I know that
I think that's a telling sign right there, because so far there's only 7 episodes. Let me point out one of these facts or one scene that I know you'll be like, oh shit, this was that episode. This is the one where Boba Fett and his friends met up with the biker gang that looks like they're straight out of Back to the Future 2.
Back to the Future, yes.
Yes.
So there we go. So now that you have that in mind, do you see the weirdness factor of this? Because when we were talking about this, Jay hadn't seen the show yet because he was traveling. And when I described to him just one thing, I described to Jay, I'm like, yeah, it was weird. There's this group of people on what looked like hoverboard Vespa scooters, and they were brightly colored. Jay's first reaction was, I don't think that there's any bright colors on Tatooine at all, especially Mos Espa. There's no bright colors. I just describing it, he picked that up right away. And watching it again, I'm like, I thought it was very off-putting to see such a weird sort of congregation of ragtag, brightly colored, Back to the Future style bikers.
Yeah, and thinking about that, it's funny that you call them Vespa, because that's exactly what I thought too with this biker gang, and it just felt like they were I'm an old guy, I'm an old dog. Teaching me new tricks is tough. I understand that Disney's trying to appeal to the new generation, and that probably does it. But for an old dog like me, that, like you just said, grew up watching Tatooine, seeing the drab, the sand color, and everything is brown. Sorry, that's what it is on Tatooine. Seeing this is like, okay, yeah, you're trying to appeal to the new crowd, which I don't even know if that helped you, but I get why you did it, but it didn't do it for me. It was like, okay, whatever. I like the characters. I like kind of what they did with some of them. I liked what they added to the story, but just some of the vehicles, some of the stuff that they did is like, okay, that's whatever. I'll let it go. I'm moving on.
The episode started with that guy who does like enhancements to people, right, Jay?
Yeah. Which part were you talking about?
Well, the intro of the scene is him literally. Is this? Am I getting the episodes mixed up? No, I am getting it wrong. The Gathering Storm, episode 4, starts off with them fixing up. What's her name? Fennec?
Yes.
Fennec Shan. Yep.
Fennec Shan, and they play like this weird, like hip hop, almost not hip hop. It's like this club EDM kind of music while he's doing it, and the whole thing. I was like, this is all kind of weird. It comes back and it puts itself together, but just to sum up episode 3, The Streets of Mos Espa, it does have a 6.4 rating, which is, like I said, one of the lowest rated anythings in Star Wars on IMDb. So I can see what you're saying, Brian, trying to appeal. And also Robert Rodriguez does weird crap like that. Go watch Spy Kids or Sin City or any of the things that he's done. And he likes to mess with color palettes. And I like that they let him do his thing. I just thought it was a miss, which we will cover at the end, but that's just my observation.
Yeah, and again, I getting back into and talking about episode 2 and 3. I loved the injection of sand people. Just a quick backstory for me. When I saw the movie in 1977. My mom took me right after that, my sister and I, to go to Children's Palace of all places. For those of you that are old enough to remember Children's Palace. So, and my very first figure that I bought that I picked out was a sand person. So, man, they've always been at the top for me. I love all the other characters too, but that was my very first figure. I still have that figure to this day sitting on my desk. And the reason I bring it up is that I've never seen anything about sand people in any of the movies, other than, like you said, Steve, earlier, that they're just mindless idiots. So I love the fact that in episode 2 and 3, they did show that human side. Again, just seeing that. But Jay, I know that you had mentioned too that they missed some of the things, and I totally get it and agree. But just seeing the Sand People, even though episode 3 was a miss for many reasons, I still love the fact that it had the Sand People in it. I love that backstory that they included.
Yes.
I love that they put Boba Fett with it. So again, that one element made it for me on that episode, but all the other stuff was just white noise. Like, okay, whatever. You give me what I wanted, and the other 30 minutes are there. It is what it is.
Agreed. And some of this was on chapter 2 where he was with the Sand People, but I will say it comes back. It matters later, because if we go to the finale, he uses the training that they gave him, kind of like it reminded me of Kill Bill. Do you remember how in Kill Bill they were training Beatrix, and what's his name kept on beating her up, and then finally she got it and then was an equal to him? That's kind of what happened here, and it comes full circle towards the end. So again, I didn't really dig the episode, but it does have its ramifications that matter later. So going into chapter 4, which is called The Gathering Storm, it has a 7.6 rating, and this is a flashback episode again where Boba Fett meets up and teams up with Fennec Shand. And this is the episode that starts off with what I thought was kind of a bizarre intro with that sort of EDM music while he's working on her because she was shot. This episode was directed by filmmaker Kevin Tancharan, and he is known for, he directed Fame, Mortal Kombat, and a bunch of episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, he's a seasoned director, especially in this world. So that's who they chose to do this episode. Do you guys remember this one with it was the flashback episode with Fennec and him teaming up together and sort of their backstory?
I love that. I love that connection, and that's one of the things that overall I've liked about this story, because, I think this is just personal. I feel like Boba Fett's always gotten that bad rap. He's a bounty hunter. He's doing his job. And so he's always had that negative, villainous kind of take. And I loved that in that episode 4, where it kind of showed the background that, he does have a heart. He's a smart guy. He knows that Fennec is going to be somebody that's going to help him get what he wants to get after. So it's not just a villain. I'm blasting all people. I'm trying to chase after Han on Bespin City, Cloud City,
right?
Stuff like that. He isn't just that villainous person. I loved that he was like, let's fix Fennec up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to pay for it. Just make her right. And I loved how she gravitated to him.
Jay?
I think you summed it up. That was a lot. No, so what was the rating on this one again?
7.6. And the interesting thing about this episode is it has the lowest amount of viewer ratings. It only has 11,000. The other ones are all 15, 19, 18,000. So I almost feel like this episode people didn't gravitate towards because they didn't really reach out to do their votes. That being said, the 11,000 that did, it averaged out at a 7.6, which is, again, a solid C+ rating. And there's a very definitive moment in this episode, and it's not really this episode. It's in the longevity of this show. The show at this point, Jay and I had one question for each other. Brian, tell me if you had this thought at all, because episode 5 or chapter 5, which is arguably, I think, the best episode in the series outside of chapter 6, is called Return of the Mandalorian. And that is directed by the genius Bryce Dallas Howard. Absolutely. And it has a 9.4 rating with almost 20,000 ratings. So this is solidified itself as one of the best episodes. And if you look on IMDb, no shyness here, Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian is the 3rd person on this list. So we know that this is a Mandalorian themed episode. Here's what Jay and I discussed, Brian, and tell me if you agreed. We both watched chapter 5. We both just had our jaws drop because of how absolutely perfectly told this story was. But we left with one question. What is the point of this show? Because after seeing chapter 5, it's now a Mandalorian story. Because spoiler alert, like I already said, the Mandalorian is not even, Boba Fett is not even in this episode. This episode is about the Mandalorian doing his thing, and you don't even see Boba Fett. So I was slow clapping this because I was so happy to see the Mandalorian back. I was so happy to see him training with the Darksaber and continuing off where it left. But Jay and I had the same opinion. As brilliant as this episode was, it kind of made me question the series because we couldn't really remember what the point of the Boba Fett series was, because while episode 1 laid the ground, I guess you could say, the primer of where it was going, episode 2 was a flashback, and episode 4 was also a flashback. So we had to keep on going back and going, wait, what is the show about? Brian, did you have any of that, or did you kind of see how mishmash? Because when the series starts with present day, and then it goes to backstory, then present day, and then to backstory, and then spin-off story, this is where I felt that this was a fantastic episode of Star Wars, but a very disjointed series.
100% agree. Yeah. I mean, and the whole thing was, again, it's like they never really took off with the story of Boba Fett. I mean, they're setting him up in the first few episodes that he's now the new daimyo of Mos Eisley and all that, or Mos Espa, I'm sorry, and that he's taking control of this and working through all that. But even then, it was just haphazard through each of the episodes. And then 5 hits, it's like, okay, what the heck? I mean, obviously they set it up at the end that now Fennec Shand meets with the Mandalorian, said basically spending 30 seconds on the screen saying, hey, we're looking for some help. And now we've connected Mandalorian to Boba Fett, or reconnected them, I should say. But the whole episode was like, okay, what's going on here? I fully expected as I'm watching this that it was going to be interlaced somehow, even if it were parallel to each other, that we were going to see some Mandalorian stuff, that we're going to see some Boba Fett stuff. And then maybe at the end, okay, now they meld together, but it was all the Mandalorian, absolutely nothing about Boba Fett. Okay, and here's Fennec Shand, and okay, now we're putting them together. So it was almost like fan going to the fan base and just saying, hey, we know you love Mandalorian. Here's some Mandalorian stuff in this Boba Fett show that we've put together.
Jay?
Totally agree. Really, at this point, where I am in the series is I'm just absolutely digging the series just because of the first episode and this particular episode. This is what's kind of pushing me again, getting me excited, because when you're dealing with episodes 3 with the 6.4, and then you said only 11,000 went ahead and even made any type of comments for the next one, which means people were almost giving up on the show at that point.
I agree, Jay. I'm glad you said that, because that's what it felt like. Like, okay, no, this isn't really catching me. And this felt like the anchor. We're going to bring you back with this. And I mean, for me, it worked, because I absolutely adore this episode. I think that, again, Bryce Dallas Howard has directed 1 episode a season of The Mandalorian. In season 1 was her Star Wars directorial debut, and she directed the episode where the Mandalorian and Grogu went to that village, and they were by the water, and the ATSTs were coming in, and it has a very high rating as well. I should look that up. But it was such a good directorial debut with such an episode of nonsense. That episode had nothing to do with anything, and yet she told the story and made it look so effing good when really the content behind it was minimalistic and didn't really have any impact at all. And if you are fans of Rebels and Clone Wars, you'll understand that that's a Dave Filoni story trope. Brian, you know that as well as everybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They will start a story and wrap it up the same way as it started, just to lead up to the next episode. And I loved Rebels, but there were so many side stories in Rebels that a lot of them had nothing to do with anything. Stealing this freighter, getting into this, and stopping this person from getting here that you never see again. So the fact that her first episode was one of those, and it still was brilliant, put into perspective how great she was. In Mandalorian season 2, she directed the episode. Jay, what's her name? The other Mandalorian with her 2 friends that comes in and they fly and they're blue. I forget their names right now.
Are you
Bo-Katan?
Yeah, Bo-Katan. She directed the Bo-Katan episode in Mandalorian season 2, which most people say is one of the best episodes of all time, because it brought in perfect characters in a very good way, and the cinematography was great. So I think that Bryce has her shit nailed, and I think that she's going to be great. And the fact that they gave her this episode speaks volumes, because I'll just tell you, my favorite part of this episode wasn't the reference to Grogu and I have to see a little friend and I have to take a side trip, was something very simple. Wielding the Darksaber is very difficult, which I think it puts a more realistic tone on the show, because in Rebels, when what's-her-name gets it, Sabine, she's holding it like it's no big deal. And then in this episode, the Mandalorian says something very, very cool. He goes, it feels like it's fighting against me, getting heavier with every swipe. And there's a moment where it physically looks like 100 pounds, and he drops it. And while it's on the ground, it's literally doing the spark lightsaber thing where it's tearing apart the grated floor that he's on, meaning that there is something different to this lightsaber. It's the dark saber. It's got more to it. Did you guys get the same sort of vibe that I did, that this really was a humbling moment in the world of the Mandalorian, because he's not just going to go wield this thing like a Jedi god. He has to learn to work with it.
See, and that's I liked it, but I'm going to say it this way, that they never resolved that. They never resolved that. Yeah. So it was interesting because I never thought of it, because to your point, Steve, seeing it in the Clone Wars, seeing it in Rebels, seeing it in all that, and even in the Mandalorian season 2 toward the end, it was never even thought of that it was that. I mean, I'm thinking I've got a lightsaber in the back. I can pick it up so easily. And just thinking that was what that you could do that with anything, the dark saber or not. They made a big point to say, no, it's not that, which was fine. But then they never resolved it. Like, okay, what do we have to do to get there? And even in the final episode, in the finale, when the Mandalorian's battling the Scorpions, it's like, he still doesn't have it. And they didn't address it. It's like, okay, it's heavy. That's great. Now what? And I never got that. So I was disappointed in that part.
So I love that you said that, because I really feel like this episode and the final 3 are just a leaping point for Mandalorian season 3, which is wrapping production, I think, as we speak. Literally, I think they said their last week of shooting was today, including reshoots. So if you think about it, this episode was filmed 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, with the knowledge that The Mandalorian is going to be the tentpole for Disney Plus Star Wars. And I like the idea that he's going into the future with the weapon that he's not really knowledgeable on how to use. So I think that half of the next season is going to be about him learning to use it, which does go into Star Wars lore. Oh my God, how many words did I just say? You have to learn.
How many was that, Steve?
It was 3. But you have to learn.
And lame too while you're at it.
I could have. Thank you, Brian. We'll see you on the next episode when you're not invited. So
when I'm not a complete jackass.
Yeah. Well, let's just catapult this episode into the next one, which is the highest rated in the series. And of course, it's directed by Mr. Dave Filoni. And that is Chapter 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger. This episode is the one that we were referencing earlier. This episode starts off with cameos. There are so many Easter eggs and cameos in this episode, it's hard to even keep track of all of them. So before I even rant on, you guys just go through. Jay, thoughts on From the Desert Comes a Stranger?
So,
because I remember you texted me in the morning. You were like, did you watch? I said, no, I have to watch it in 2 hours. And you said, Filoni is written all over this.
And that's what I was just going to say is I knew it was Filoni as I was watching it. I'm like, okay, this is definitely him. I felt like I was watching an episode of Rebels. Very Rebel-ish feel to it.
Yep.
And not just for the obvious reasons for, the cameos, but it just had that feel to it.
Brian, what did you think when you watched this episode? We talked about Cad Bane's closing scene, but there's a lot more going on in this, including Luke Skywalker for half of the episode de-aged, and they did it so well, I couldn't tell if it was an actor that looked like him or if it was de-aging CGI'd. Where are you at with this episode?
Yeah, no, I loved it too. I mean, just so many. I mean, so many cameos with Ahsoka on there. I mean, there were a couple of slow parts. I didn't necessarily like the training of Grogu. I mean, I know that was a setup for him making a choice, which he obviously did in episode 7. We saw that, but at the end of the day, it's like it was like a plot point, a plot device that they're using to get to that point. Like we knew that there was no point in the training. There was just none at all. Once that started to happen, it was awesome to see Luke Skywalker again. I know I'm going to make some people really mad here. I did not. I'm one of the few people that did not like Luke at the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian. I did not like seeing him. It was okay. Oh. It was okay. I did not like it. But seeing him in episode 6 was like, okay, he's in it now, and I liked him in there. I thought that he was a little too passive in it. Again, now he's this Jedi master. I've not seen him like that before. So I love the episode. Do not get me wrong, but just some of it were like, okay, what are you doing with that? That's interesting. Again, all working toward the story, so I get it. But still, not in love. Not my favorite episode.
Interesting. I thought that the cameos were brilliant. I thought that Luke in the end of Mandalorian is one of the most amazing things I'd ever seen because I didn't expect it. And I loved seeing, just Mark Hamill back again in whatever shape or form. And I also love seeing him just destroy in the way that you always wanted to see Luke destroy, bad guys. When he just tore apart those dark, Jay, what are they called again? The dark bad guys, those ones that are made out of that special stuff that couldn't be, whatever.
Are you talking from The Mandalorian?
Yeah, from Moff Gideon's bad guys. And when he just comes through and he just destroys them in 30 seconds, I love that he did that. So that's interesting, Brian. But, everyone's got different views on this. And I think that you're in a good company because if you're listening to Nightcap Chat, that means that you're a very, very critical thinker, and you dislike a lot.
I don't want to go too deep of a thing. The reason I didn't like it, this is the only reason I didn't like it, because everything that you just said, I absolutely loved about it. And they're called Dark Troopers, by the way, Steve. Thanks.
Dark Troopers. Thank you.
It's really hard.
I was close. I was settle down.
And these are Dark Troopers. I know it's a stretch there for you, but
oh my God,
it wasn't.
This is not between the lines. You don't get to talk to me like that, Brian.
I forgot it's your show. You can mute me anytime if you want.
We're gonna re-edit this and just edit out every bit of you.
So we had this person that joined us. No, the reason I didn't like it, though, the only reason is more for an altruistic piece. The Mandalorian Story, and I know we're not talking about the Mandalorian series itself, but just the Mandalorian Story was an original take on Star Wars, and it had a few callbacks, a few little pieces in there, like Ahsoka and all that in it. But Luke Skywalker, we see him in everything Star Wars. It's like, the Mandalorian didn't have it, and I was glad that they didn't have a Skywalker thread to it. So when I saw him, I was like, damn it. Can't you leave Luke out of something? And it's not because I don't like Mark Hamill. It's not because I don't like Luke Skywalker. I love him, but I love that the Mandalorian was its own story and in the Star Wars universe, but leave Luke out of it. That's the only reason. But I loved watching him slice it. I loved seeing him full Jedi was badass, but I just wish they would have left. Bring somebody else in. Bring like Ezra Bridger. Nobody knows Ezra. That would have been cool to have brought in. So that's why I don't like it. For that only reason.
I don't disagree. Jay and I have talked about this for literally years. I feel like Star Wars hinges on the Skywalker story, and if it starts to get dull, they go back to it, even though they don't have to. So this would be the example that I would use. I didn't think I needed it, but I loved seeing it. I thought it was great. So back to chapter 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger. We obviously, as we mentioned, we start off with seeing, what's his name? I'm blanking. Who's the sheriff? Timothy Cobb. Yeah, there we go. Cobb Vance. It starts off with Cobb Vance, with who we hadn't seen since the pilot episode of actually, it was not even this season. It was in The Mandalorian because Boba Fett went to get his gear back, his armor. So it starts off with him, and you see that he's actually a really good quote unquote sheriff. He's a good human being. He's a good person, and he runs his town with empathy and stuff like that, which obviously comes back at the end of this episode. But the cameos are jam-packed. Not only do we see Grogu, which I did not expect that. I thought there's no way they're going to go back to a Grogu thing, and they did. So I liked it because I loved Grogu, and I thought it worked really well with the story. And if you know the season finale, chapter 7, it's critical to him bringing it back. But this episode was filled with cameos and Easter eggs, and Dave Filoni knows what he's doing, and most of these are his creation. Cad Bane was invented by Dave Filoni, and it started in Clone Wars. He's in the video game on Disney Infinity. He's in Rebels, and he's a fascinating character, and this is his first time in real life, and he's voiced by the same actor that played him on Clone Wars and Rebels. It's the same guy, and it's the most perfect visual representation of a animated character to real life character that I've seen yet. They changed him just a little bit because time has changed. He's upgraded his facial gear just a slight bit. But his coloring, his eyes, his outfit, everything just had me like gasping for breath. And the finale of this was so good, which does lead up to a post-credit scene at the end of chapter 7. So if you guys are new to the world of Star Wars and Marvel, always watch the credits because there's something back there at the end. And so we'll just go right into chapter 7, which is the series season finale probably this series finale, if I'm correct. Chapter 7, In the Name of Honor, which was directed, again, shockingly, by Robert Rodriguez. I want to say annoyed. I was stunned that they brought him back for a third episode. It's not like them to do that, but they did. So here we are, Chapter 7. Everybody is back together. So there's an equal screen time between the Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and everything. And Chapter 6 ended with Grogu having to make a choice. Does he take Yoda's lightsaber and become Luke's first trainee at his academy? Or does he choose the shirt that the Mandalorian made, and does he leave and go back? And he can never come back. I was like, there's no way he's choosing the shirt. And then Jay blew my mind. He goes,
"Oh, really?"
Well, yeah, because I was like, well, then what are they going to do? Is it always going to be Grogu and the Mandalorian? I don't think that they're going to go to that. I thought that they were trying to distance themselves from Baby Yoda, if you will, right? Well, I was wrong because Jay blew my mind originally going, well, you're going to see Grogu in that little pod of the new Razor Crest or whatever we're calling it. And when Jay said that, I kind of just dropped the mic. I'm like, you're totally right. He's choosing the shirt. Because in Chapter 6, the Mandalorian comes back and he needs a new ship because the Razor Crest is busted. And what Jay and I loved a lot, and Brian, I'm pretty sure that you agree with this, they took a ship, the Naboo Speeder from the wait, what is that one called? The Phantom Menace.
Episode 1. Yeah.
And they rebuilt it Mandalorian style. And there's a very quick line of dialogue where he goes, what happened to the droid pod? And she goes, I hollowed it out because you're not going to be flying with the droid. So he's flying around in this ship with a clear bubble, clearly meant for somebody the size of Grogu. And when it happened at the end, yes, that's how it ends. I was okay with it because it works really well. But damn, you can't just, they just gave it to you that was the choice he was going to make. And I was so wrong. Did you guys think he was going to choose the shirt, or did you think he was going to go lightsaber?
No, I knew he was going to go shirt, and I'll tell you why. Is that at the end of Mandalorian episode or of season 2, the last episode, I knew that Grogu was going to come back. That there's no way that he was going to be disconnected because again, this is more where I'm geeking out now. But he had that attachment. He was connected. Even at the end, seeing Pedro Pascal, his character Din Djarin, cry over watching Grogu go away. There was no way in hell they weren't going to bring that back together. So I knew as soon as I saw it, it's like, this isn't even a choice. It's like, yeah, thanks for showing me Yoda's lightsaber, and that was cool, but there's absolutely no way. Forgetting the Naboo Starfighter, I agree with you on that too, that was a telling sign, but I knew at the end of Mandalorian season 2, that was going to happen. Maybe I didn't know how, but there's no way he was going to go.
They were going to let that relationship go. And Jay, you and I talked about this. Sarah knew it too, because Sarah goes, if he's the first of Luke's trainees at his academy, wouldn't we have known the name Grogu this whole time? And then I was like, yeah, no shit. We would have known that. Instead, we don't know who the first one was. We know that Kylo Ren was a part of it, but we would know the name Grogu from somewhere if it's Luke's first one, and we did not know that. So you guys all nailed it. I was subtly hoping he was going to choose the lightsaber and then Luke was going to give him the shirt anyway. But let's just skip ahead. We already see what's going on here. There's a battle now it's Mos Espa, Mos Eisley? That's where the battle takes place, correct?
Yes.
And the Mandalorian is now teaming up with the rest of the group. They have all of the ragtag group. They've got the street biker people back again. They've got everybody back to defend against the Syndicate. And that's how episode 6 ended, was the Syndicate owns Tatooine. As long as you let the spice run free, you won't be harmed. Well, that's not going to fly on Boba Fett's watch. He now runs this town. So here comes the invasion. Brian, what are your thoughts on the finale?
Love the finale. Loved it. Again, I thought that some of the fight was extended out. I thought that they overplayed it. When Fennec Shan, when they bunkered up in that cantina that got blown up at the end of episode 6, they were bunkered up in there, and Fennec was talking to the Mandalorian and Boba Fett that, hey, if the people from Freetown come in, we'll have the numbers. But even when they showed up, it's like the Pike Syndicate was so huge. It's like, what happened here? I thought that you said you had the numbers, and of course, there was the the whole thing of the alliance with the other gang members or the other gang, the warlords, whatever you want to call them, that all fizzled out on him and basically screwed him. But still, it was just interesting to see that. But love some of the fight scenes. We can dive into this now or later. The Rancor, that was really
there. We go.
I've got some opinions on that too, so I don't want to steal the thunder. But overall, I loved it. I loved the way it went.
Jay.
So I'm going to tell you, I had high hopes for this, and from what I was hearing, I thought it was actually I thought it was more in line for more of a what is that? Episode 5, episode 6 type feel. I did not get that at all on this. A lot of this was predictable for me.
Him riding the Rancor was predictable because, Jay, I told you episode 3 or 2. My buddy Pirate Steve, who is an employee at Disney, he is a Star Wars fanatic. He knows everything. He said to me, he goes, yeah, guaranteed that Boba Fett rides that Rancor. And I laughed at him because I'm like, oh, yeah, you're probably right. When those scorpions came out and Sarah kept on going, where's Boba Fett? Where's Boba Fett? I was like, oh, shit. I know where he is. He's getting the fucking Rancor. I mean, that's exactly how it went down. By the way, I'm not going to bleep that. That's one. Even PG-13 movies can say that once.
It's interesting because the Rancor was a complete shock to me. I don't know why I didn't think of it. As soon as it happened, it's like, of course that's what he did. But up to that point, I hadn't even thought about it. And I just, it went out of my head and it shouldn't have. I'm actually disappointed in myself.
See, and I probably wouldn't have thought about it unless Steve had said, oh, he's definitely going to be riding that thing. Jay, did you see that coming outside of you and me talking about it or what?
I kind of saw it coming because there's actually artwork that has him riding a Rancor and it's very, very popular artwork. So I could see that happening.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. I have not seen that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jay, your overall thoughts on the finale episode?
Well, I got to tell you, overall thoughts just on the finale episode.
By the way, it has a 7.8 rating.
So with a 7.8, for me, this whole series has been almost like a C- to me. What really carried it was the Mandalorian. It had nothing to do with Boba Fett. As much as it, if you could argue that fact, it didn't go anywhere because half of the people that they introduced in this group have died. So I really wasn't feeling it. I think they could have combined most of the exciting parts into a Mandalorian series and just kind of explain the Boba Fett in Mandalorian instead of its own series.
So I think that the episode was just its rating, 7.8. That sounds about right. Almost a B. I really, really enjoyed it, even though that weird biker gang was back and doing a weird chase scene on their brightly colored Vespas. I'll take that as you want. I did love him riding the Rancor. I just loved watching the two Mandalorians, if you can call them that now, Boba Fett and the Mandalorian flying around shooting together. I loved them together. And then Cad Bane coming back as just a genuine badass. I mean, I could watch a Cad Bane series. He's so scary to me. I thought it was brilliant the way he walked in and just owned that town, and he was talking shit to the Mandalorian because they know each other. They were friends as kids. They know everything. And as a matter of fact, Jay, didn't we read, isn't it? Boba Fett's dad, Jango Fett, trained him, right? He trained him. So they're friends and sort of rivals. So having him show up at the end, I thought he wasn't even at the end. He was throughout the whole episode, but it came down to a battle between Boba Fett and him. And I thought it was great how it ended. And it was, again, a trope back to him learning how to fight hand-to-hand combat with that stick that he got from the Tusken Raiders.
They call that a gaffy stick.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm being technical now. Sorry.
That's cool. I love it. I need that because I am a moderate, knowledgeable person, and you guys are experts. So bring it on.
Yeah, and it's still the Dark Trooper too. Just to bring.
Oh my God, I'm cutting that from the episode.
Just so you know, some of that whole back history thing between the two is actually in a lost episode of the Clone Wars that was never actually put out because it was never finished. But
really,
yes, you can find it on YouTube. But the history of both of them goes back a while, kind of like what you were saying. However, the scar that's on Boba Fett's helmet came from Bane. during that particular fight, it was just a real nasty fight. So they have some tension between each other.
Which makes sense now because he did come in with immediately talking shit like I thought I smelled something. And then they go right into it. So I thought that their relationship was interesting. Their battle was great. I did like the fact that the people from Freetown came back because they are good people. They understood. But also there was a sad moment where Cad Bane says, no, we killed the entire Tusken Raider group that he lived with, that his family is dead. So I thought that was a dark moment. Like, oh my God. All right. I mean, you're almost back to Anakin killing younglings again because he built this amazing relationship with these people over 2 episodes. And then he just announced that they were dead. So I thought that was dark, but it led to Cad Bane's real sinister personality. And I'm not entirely convinced he's dead because the end of that spear that he stabbed him with was like, I don't know, 2 inches, and it definitely looks like it. But we've seen Darth Maul get cut in half and rebuilt.
Yeah.
Who hasn't come back? Like everybody's come back. Nobody dies in Star
Wars. Which does lead to the post-credit scene. And again, you guys need to watch the post-credit scene. It's very quick, but you do see Timothy Oliphant's character, Cobb Vanth, in the healing pod and the guy that does all of the fixing of people. You see him turning on what looks like some sort of a torch while he's in the healing chamber. So we do know that Timothy Oliphant's character, Cobb Vanth, is coming back. In what show or what series or what world, I have no idea. But that is the post-credit scene, and I'm very pumped about it because people have been begging for Timothy Oliphant to be in a Star Wars movie since like the early 2000s. For some reason, when he was young, people wanted him in that movie. I don't understand why, because I didn't know who he was until The Girl Next Door. And now I see who he is, and he's a brilliant actor, but now he's in it. I love the fact that this guy is going to be in around the series, hopefully again later. So as far as the episode goes, it wraps up a season of ups and downs. I'm a big fan. If I'm going to rate the entire season, I'm giving it a solid B, maybe B+, because I had a lot of fun watching it. I don't really know what I learned about Boba Fett except for how he got trained to fight, that he's not really a mercenary at heart. He does want to lead a group of people, and he literally calls them, these are my people.
Yeah.
So I like that he has some heart and tension there against anyone trying to screw with his group. And I thought that was a different realm. So I want to end this discussion, if you will. This discussion, I have one more topic to bring up before we end the show, with a question with both of you, because this is the one that I keep seeing on Reddit and every Facebook post ever. Did this show ruin Boba Fett? Brian, go for it.
Absolutely not. No way did it ruin Boba Fett. No way. I mean, I think there's some tangents that they took. I think some of the background and all that is a little awkward and all that, but it just added more to the story. And again, they did not ruin it for me by any means. I can't imagine anybody saying that they ruined it. Again, could they done better? 100%, but I don't think they ruined it. No.
Jay?
No, I don't think it ruined it for me. I mean, there's very few Star Wars things that I will absolutely not watch again. And I would watch Boba Fett. I mean, The Last Jedi I've seen, a handful of times, and I hate that movie. So it's just, it was nice to kind of see a backstory about Boba Fett. We'll see where it goes from there. Depending on where it goes, it could ruin it, I guess, in a way. But I'm fine with where they went with it.
As of right now, they do not have a sequel series announced yet, but they do have 3 different Star Wars unannounced, no title release series. So it could be a sequel series. I'm genuinely feeling that this is going to be a 1-season miniseries, and you will see Boba Fett in other episodes of The Mandalorian. If Mandalorian needs help, he's going to fly down there and ask for his help, just like this episode. And I think we're not done seeing Boba Fett, but I do think that we are done with this series. Does that make sense? I don't think the character is gone, but I do think that the series will not get a sequel.
No, I 100% agree, because like you just said with Cobb Vanth and all that, there's still a lot of pieces that can easily be plugged into. I mean, shoot, I know we're not getting into it. Maybe you're getting into this, but just we have Obi-Wan coming out in May 25th. I mean, again, not trying to jump ahead, but there's still some part of that I can imagine seeing. There's the Mandalorian that we know is going to get season 3. There's going to be pieces of that. So I would agree. I can easily see Disney saying, we're done with the Boba Fett series, but Boba Fett and the pieces that it helped create are not done. No way. We will absolutely see them again.
So Just to answer my own question, I don't think that it ruined Boba Fett even in the slightest bit. A very critical, angry person might say yes, because Boba Fett was known as a very quiet, hardcore killer. He was known as the bounty hunter of the galaxy. Like, in theory, he literally killed Luke's aunt and uncle and disintegrated them. You know, that's his rep. So now that we see him as a humble people person that wants control but also respect, and he doesn't want to lead with fear, he wants to lead out of respect. I think that maybe that changed who Boba Fett is in people's minds. But if people are saying, and they are universally, that this ruined Boba Fett, I universally disagree with them. And I think that it just enhanced the character, because you can't have a series about a guy that wears the helmet all the time and has 4 lines of dialogue. That's not how it's going to work. You have to get to the bottom of who this person was. How did he escape? How did he train? And where is he going from here? And I love him leading this place as an ally to the Mandalorian. I think it's going to be great in the future. And Brian, you just said it. My final question to wrap up this show. Right after this series ended, literally moments after it was aired, Disney posted the promotional photo, the first poster for the Obi-Wan series. And as Brian said, it airs on Disney Plus May 25th. May 25th is the day that Jay's most anticipated thing of all time. And I didn't know this, Brian, but you and Jay have the same opinion on not only Obi-Wan, but Ewan McGregor. So you guys, I'll just let you go. You're shot out of a cannon. What do you expect in the future of Star Wars on Disney Plus? And I mean Boba Fett, Mandalorian Season 3, and Obi-Wan series, because Brian, you and I were texting each other yesterday. There's a lot of potential with the Obi-Wan series, a lot of loopholes that they could use.
Well, yeah, and we talked about it. I mean, just right off the bat, I mean, because the way that I understand it, and again, I have no idea because I've not seen any major synopsis of the Obi-Wan series, just that one thing. But the way I understand it is that this is between Episode 3 and Episode 4, where Luke is on Tatooine, probably a toddler, maybe a teenager, I don't know yet, and Obi-Wan's there helping guide him or doing whatever he's doing. So that's the time frame that I'm seeing here, and just knowing Star Wars like I do, they're now also having Darth Vader, I guess, Anakin Skywalker, be part of this show. And you and I, Steve, talked yesterday that there's the hint that the Grand Inquisitor is going to be in this too. So how is that going to tie into any part of Obi-Wan and what that will do? And is that just going to be another splinter off of we're going to have this tied into to the Ahsoka series and everything else that's going to happen down the line? So it really just opens up this huge can of worms. I have no idea what they're going to do with that. I mean, I'm excited for all of it, but it's like I had one thought, one idea about what was happening, and as they release more and more, it's like, okay, whatever they're doing, I have no idea, but I can't wait to see it.
So I'm going to blow both of your minds and any readers right now, in case they haven't done the research yet, because IMDb changed dramatically in the past 24 hours on the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Do you guys know who's listed as who in this? Because this just got bizarre. So we knew that Hayden Christensen was going to be in it. He's literally credited as 6 episodes. Do you know how many Do you know how many episodes are in this series? 6.
Wow.
Okay. Ewan McGregor, 6 episodes. Joel Edgerton, Owen Lars, we know him. He's the one that was looking after Luke. He's Luke's uncle. 6 episodes. So here's the part that blows my mind is you brought this up the other day. First of all, Kamali Nanjiani, he's the guy who's in, we know him. He's a comedian. He's in The Big Sick, Stuber, Men in Black, and more importantly, he was just in Eternals. He's freaking hilarious. I actually met him at a gas station. It was pretty awesome. He is now credited as being in 6 episodes of this. And here's the big one. Rupert Friend. Rupert Friend is now cast in 6 episodes of this show. Jay, the heavy rumor is that Rupert Friend, who plays, if you look him up, you'll know who he is. He plays Hitman, Agent 47 in the movie. He's in a bunch of stuff. You'll recognize him. He is now in 6 episodes, and he is rumored to be the Inquisitor.
Ooh.
Yeah, that just blows my mind. Steve, you and I nothing was verified by what I had. It was just all rumors when I had read it. But just hearing that, it's like, what are they going to do with this Obi-Wan series? I was expecting another Tatooine thing. I'm sorry, I do not believe for a second that we're going to be stuck on Tatooine. I mean, whether Obi-Wan ends up going off world, I mean, I know he's supposed to be a hermit. They've always talked about that. Episode 4, when it came out, he's been this hermit. But there's no way he's going to be stuck on Tatooine. He's going to, and my initial thought with Darth Vader is that maybe there was going to be some sort of flashback or maybe some part of a mind meld of some sort, maybe between them. But hearing the Inquisitor's going to be in this, Obi-Wan's going off world. He's not going to be on Tatooine very much, and have Darth Vader and Inquisitor on this somehow.
So the director right now that's listed on IMDb, and Jay, we've covered this a bunch of times. IMDb changes frequently because they rely off of public statements and press releases. So it does change. And if it's a secretive show, then it will change. But as of right now, the director of this series is listed as Deborah Chow. And Deborah Chow has directed episodes of The Mandalorian, Better Call Saul, Mr. Robot, and The Man in the High Tower. She has and Better Call Saul, I already said that, and Snowfall. So she has a lot of background in episode directing, not feature-length films, but episode directing. Anyway, to me, the idea that they got Joel Edgerton to be in 6 episodes as Luke's uncle, that seems like it's going to be on Tatooine, but also it could be interplanetary and he could leave. But let's just do one thing, a real quick game. What characters could they bring into the Obi-Wan series? Because if it's in that time period, you know who's alive right now, Jay? Darth Maul. And Darth Maul is out there looking with the rebels for Obi-Wan Kenobi. And as we know, that he finds him at I think the second to last episode or third to last episode of Rebels, he finds him and they go to a very good battle. What does that mean? Where are we at now? Who could show up? And let's just do one more thing here. They are directing. They're filming and finishing up the Ahsoka Tano series right now, starring what's her name, who's Rosario Dawson. Do you think I love her? Jay does not like her as the character. I really do.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I like her playing the character. I just hate the character. I am not an Ahsoka fan.
Oh my wait, Jay, is this the first time you've told me that? Because she's I think she may possibly be my favorite Star Wars character.
Really?
Yeah, she might be my number 1. If not, she's like tied with my number 2 with like R2. I mean, honestly, and Chewie. I think she's brilliant. Yeah, we'll have to get into that in another episode. But the fact that she's around, Jay, think about the potential that this show has. If you're going to go cameo, you could bring in, as Brian, you and I said it yesterday, Ezra Bridger could show up in this episode. So could Sabine.
Yes. I mean, Bo-Katan, I mean, the whole Mandalorian
all of them.
From all that could come in.
So I have a theory on that. How cool would it be if we find out that Sabine is actually the armorer?
See, now that would be interesting, except for the fact, and I'm not going to blow your bubble up intentionally, in the show, The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, the armorer is listed as a different actress. So she's literally listed as a different actress.
I know, but do you show who's Sabine? Because, I mean, you're going to from animated to a live version.
We do know. I think that they already announced her casting. Hold on.
Sabine, do they?
Live action.
I guess what I'm getting to on this is if you...
we do know who she is. It says Disney Plus casts Ahsoka's Sabine, and her name is Natasha Liu Bordizzo. So I don't know. I mean, that would be interesting.
She could still play it, technically, if they hired the other actresses for the voice.
Which would not be the first time that they've done that. You're right. They have done that before.
The only reason I'm bringing this up was because if you notice, the armor had no issue with lifting up that saber like the Mandalorian did.
Right. And that's kind of why I like that episode, was the fact that it doesn't seem like the Mandalorian is the one that's going to be ruling Mandalore. I don't think he wants to. I don't think that it's even remotely in his wheelhouse of caring, but he does wield it heavily versus Sabine, who kind of owned that shit for a little while, right?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't she know how to use it?
I don't know.
If it was the armorer.
Maybe she is the heir to Mandalore. I don't know, but all I know is this has a lot of potential, Brian. a lot of potential for cameos and storytelling that we're not used to, because this is a really interesting point in time. And I really don't know, but Brian, you said it yesterday. Do you think we're going to see Darth Maul?
I do. For the reasons that you just said. I mean, and everybody has been hinting. Everybody's been hinting about Darth Maul, whether it was, at the end of Solo, and we have to have a Solo 2 and all that. Darth Maul has so much of a following right now. Disney has to do it. It's not an if, it's when and where, and it ties in perfectly with this story, especially since we have Darth Vader, especially since we have the Inquisitor. We have all those things. Again, I don't know that he'll play a big story in it, but it would not shock me in the least if the end credit scene of Obi-Wan on the last of the series at the sixth episode, I think you said that the ending credit scene will be Darth Maul, and you see his smile or his glare or his laugh or something, and I'll get you, Obi-Wan. Just something. He's going to be there. There's no way it's not going to happen.
I don't disagree at all. And as a matter of fact, I think that if you remember the ending of Solo, you see Darth Maul in a halogen projector. And the interesting thing was the physical actor was played by Ray Park, but the voice was played by what's his name? The guy that does his voice and everything now, who is a huge part of the Star Wars world. I can't remember his name.
I can't think of his name.
I can't either. Yeah.
But he's huge in that, and I don't think that you're wrong. You could do something as simple as the holo projection again. Although I don't think you're going to see something hacky like that. You've already seen him as a holo projection once in Solo. I think that if there's anything, there's going to be a straight up, you're going to see Darth Maul and he's going to say, show me Obi-Wan or something, like finding out that he's on Tatooine of all places. And then it's going to lead up to what we've seen in Rebels. I think that there's more to it, because Rebels really showed us that Darth Maul's not gone. He is a unique force in the galaxy that is palpable. And one thing is for sure, he has a hard on for getting rid of Obi-Wan. And we know how that ends thanks to Rebels. But I don't think that we're done seeing that. How in the hell are they going to make this work with Hayden Christensen? Guys, just tell me how that's going to work. Is it all going to be flashbacks? Or is Vader going to be...
I don't know. I mean, I guess that's an excellent point, because I could be wrong here, although I doubt it, because I'm usually very rarely wrong.
My God.
But have they said that Darth Vader's going to be in here? I mean, we know it's Hayden Christensen, but it could be that it's just Anakin Skywalker. Have they said that Darth Vader is going to be in it?
They haven't really said anything. They said that he's reprising his role. By the way, it's Sam Witwer. Sam Witwer is the one that does the voice of Darth Maul. And and he's also in The Mist and a bunch of other things. He's a fantastic actor, and he loves the Star Wars group. But no, he has not said that. They have not. They haven't said crap. And that's the point, is we don't know what is going on. If you look at IMDb, under his name, it says Hayden Christensen, Darth Vader. Now, that doesn't mean anything, but if you go by the lore and the timeline, Jay, what's your favorite gift to send me? I had the high ground. We know that he turns in. We know that he turns into Darth Vader at the end of that episode, and then that Obi-Wan goes to Tatooine to watch Luke. And then in Rebels, we see him watching a Luke Skywalker from a distance, who's like a toddler. So we have to know it's got to be somewhere in that world, and I just want to know how Vader's going to be involved.
Yeah, and again, even the Grand Inquisitor. Again, how does that tie in? Because to this point, I don't know that we've seen those two. I mean, not that the Grand Inquisitor is a Sith Lord, but still of the same caliber. Like, how does that going to work out? It'd be very interesting to see. I don't know if it's a different timeline, maybe parallel things that are happening, kind of like what they did with Boba Fett, where we have the Mandalorian, and then we have the Boba Fett, and then maybe we'll cross over at the end somehow. Well, maybe that's what they're going to do. I don't know.
Well, the Inquisitor died at the end of season 1 or 2 of Rebels, because then you got the Seventh Sister and you got all the other people. The Grand Inquisitor died at the end of either season 1 or 2, and I don't remember. Sorry, listeners, I don't have that memorized. But that would mean that this story would take place before the battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, and it could be where Luke is still an infant. It could be literally right after that episode ended, because we don't know. Because if he is the Inquisitor, we know he dies, and that would be before the Rebels are even introduced. So I don't know where this is going, but if he is playing the Inquisitor, I think he physically could meet the role, and I would be very interested to see what happens with this, because we all love Obi-Wan, we love Ewan McGregor, and I think this is going to be a very big deal to the Star Wars people, because the one thing that everyone can say about the prequels was that Obi-Wan was perfect and that Ewan McGregor nailed it. So that's the one thing everybody can universally agree. Love or hate Jar Jar Binks, nobody cares. Everybody loves Obi-Wan, and I'm just pumped to see him back. So May 25th, set your calendars. We'll all be here. I'm sure you will as well. Guys, do you have any parting shots here? Not at me, Brian, but we want to thank, again, Nightcap Chat, Blade, Ken, and Lance for letting us come on and do this spoiler-filled review. Thanks for letting us be on. And all of you listeners, thank you. Make sure you subscribe to Nightcap Chat on every platform. Share it with your friends. Brian, thanks again for joining us, my man. You willing to come back again for future discussions? Absolutely.
I'd love to do it. This is great. I mean, anytime we could sit around talking about Star Wars, you are not going to make me mad. Just sad we didn't have more time. But thank you. Thank you for inviting me on here. Love doing it. Look forward to doing it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you again for coming on, everybody. Thank you again for listening. Blade, Lance, and Ken, thank you. I know that probably none of you watched this except for Ken because you guys are kind of not into it. But either way, I thought it was a really fun watch, a good season. Not the greatest, but I think that some of the episodes might be the greatest. And I had a lot of fun watching it. I'm looking forward to where it goes from here. So bring on those new Grogu Funkos, right? Where he's wearing the little chainmail shirt. Right? Yes. Obviously, that's coming eventually. So bring it on. Brian, thank you again for joining us. We look forward to having you on again. Go follow him on Instagram at brian.c.lee, correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Go follow him on Instagram. His podcast is so much more impressive than ours, with a lot more followers. He knows what he's talking about. Go check him out. He knows everything. He's got tattoos. Brian, your latest tattoo is of the formerly known Slave One, correct?
That is right. It's not Slave One. It is Boba Fett starship. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Make sure you keep listening, everybody. Nightcap Chat starts again this week with a brand new episode with Ken, Blade, and Lance. I'm not sure if I'll make it on, but it'll be their first episode in over a month and a half. So check them out. We also have a list of topics to go over, Jay, on our next episode of Ink and Paint, which do include such things as the huge controversy, which is Snow White, and is it unfair to say that you can't have dwarfs playing dwarf characters because how woke can one company be? And I really feel like Disney is losing their grip on reality. And this, to me, is a topic I can't wait to talk about because it is putting them in a weird situation. And that would be all about that. We're going to go over Moon Knight, the new stuff that's being added to Hollywood studios. There's a whole new thing. The Batman. They've announced its runtime. Yes. I just went to Universal Studios. I'm going to do my trip review. Pixar and Marvel have new cruise days at sea. Jay knows all about Star Wars Celebration. So if you guys had tickets to Star Wars Celebration and you want refunds, Jay's going to tell you about that. Disney Cruise Lines have announced a huge cancellation. The Oscar nominations are out, and Disney got a lot of nominations, actually. There is a new video game coming out called Speedstorm that looks like Mario Kart, except with Disney characters. And this just broke yesterday. I can't wait to bring it to you. Futurama is coming back to Hulu with 20 episodes. We're going to dig into all of that on the next episode of Ink and Paint. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Brian, thanks again for joining us. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
All right, Jay.
Thanks, Brian.
Remember, subscribe to everything that Nightcap Chat has on their Instagram, their Facebook. Follow them wherever you can get your podcasts. And more importantly, share it with your friends. Jay, thank you again for being my partner in this show. This has been a great time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve.
No problem. And remember, everybody, be greater.
Be yourself.